A kid with a teddy bear is the classic image of a happy childhood. Many kids had teddy bears, and I did too. My experience with live bears was mostly limited to seeing them in zoo cages or doing tricks in the circus. When I grew up, bears slipped away from my interest in animals, maybe because they didn't have as friendly and charming an image as dolphins, orcas, and elephants. But somehow the desire to meet bears face to face began burning inside me. There are not very many places where bears live in large numbers and can be seen easily. Places where one can spend a lot of time with them and where bears are just a few yards from you are very unique. But one such place is Kamchatka, and it is terra incognita for most people. Do you know where and what Kamchatka is? Most likely your reaction would be just a shrug if someone were to ask you that. Kamchatka is a peninsula on the far east of Russia. This is where Russia starts, and it is true bear country. If one were to try to describe Kamchatka in 3 words, they would be volcanoes, orcas, and bears. The best time to see bears there is in August, but to get to Kamchatka is not easy. There was a long flight from the U.S. to Moscow, a lengthy layover, and then another long flight across the entirety of Russia to the capital of Kamchatka, Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. Altogether, it took me 23 hours. You get the idea. My final destination at Kamchatka was the Russian National Preserve called South Kamchatka Sanctuary. It is a huge territory which comprises almost all of the southern part of the Kamchatka Peninsula. It is strictly guarded, and Russians deserve great credit for creating this wildlife sanctuary. This is the place where one can meet brown bears face to face, and they're everywhere. The best place to see bears is Kurile Lake, which is at the center of the South Kamchatka Federal Reserve. There are 2 ways to get to the lake, by helicopter or by truck. Time-wise, the difference is dramatic. By helicopter, one may reach this destination in an hour, but by truck, if you're lucky, it takes about 12 hours. You may have heard the term force majeure, which means that a situation can be out of control due to unpredictable circumstances. Hurricanes, storms, earthquakes, etc. Well, the locals are saying that in Kamchatka, any force majeure on the mainland should be multiplied by a factor of 3 at least. It sounds like an exaggeration, but when you live in such a remote and rural place, surrounded by 160 volcanoes, 29 of them active, that may not be too far from the truth. One might decide to get to that place quickly, just 1 hour by helicopter over stunning scenery. Alternatively, you could be stuck for days because of bad weather, which changes mile by mile and 15 minutes by 15 minutes. For this reason, we made the decision to go by truck. In Kamchatka, there's a special name for such trucks.
Вахтовка.
Basically, a Vatovka is nothing more than a heavy-duty 2 or 3 axle truck capable of hauling 10 tons. But rather than cargo, it is moving about a dozen people. It's not hard to imagine the level of off-road discomfort. By the way, Kamchatka's off-road, just as force majeure, is at least 3 times tougher than, say, California off-roads. It is really brutal. Well, the next 2 days we were shaken, stirred, and beaten by Kamchatka's off-road, making short stops or sleeping at night on truck seats or in tents. I was watching the scenery become more and more untouched by mankind. Trash was disappearing from the seashores, and less of it had been dumped along the road. I was watching a huge green plain, volcanic mountains surrounding them from one side and the sea from the other. And its explosion of green was astonishing and captivating. The grass was up to my waist, and while we were making short stops, my travel mates were bringing handfuls of berries. From time to time, a lone bear could be seen in the distance. The summertime here is short, and natural life makes the most of it. It is the path to untouched and pristine nature, slow and painful immersion into wilderness. The spellbinding magic of Kamchatka had begun. Finally, exhausted from Kamchatka's off-roading, we arrived at our final destination, the ranger station at Kurile Lake. In the vicinity of the ranger station, there is another station for ichthyologists. For their scientific work, they have built a bridge across the river where it flows from the lake. Kurile Lake is a major breeding ground for wild salmon. Bears are happy to use this bridge for fishing. It is practically fishing in a barrel, and everybody is welcome to use the bridge to fish, with one simple requirement. Any fisherman must be fully certified as a brown bear, just like these. And now, just imagine that you are the bear, the fisher bear. The fishing starts with spotting the fish, and it involves lots of walking on the bridge. The fish come in waves, and the fisher bear's goal is to spot fish when they come close to the bridge. It is now time to jump and grab the fish with bare hands. With bare claws. Just like everything else, it requires practice, practice, practice. Hard training pays off. The fisher bear may catch more fish in less time, and the time of enjoyment, eating freshly caught fish, resting, or nursing the kids can happen more often. Plus, and this is critical, fat bears can hibernate with more comfort in the wintertime, and when they wake up, they are able to survive better until the food becomes more abundant. For nursing mothers, fishing skills are even more important. Not only is her life at stake in the wintertime, but the life of her kids as well. So fisher bears, please practice as much as you can. Another place for fishing is in rivers, flowing into the lake. Since we were staying at the ranger station, it would take 20 to 30 minutes to get to the river where the fishing was good. Because the fish here are more confined, it would appear they would be easier to catch. Not so fast. The issue is competition. There are so many other fishermen, or to be exact, fisher bears around, that more interpersonal or inter-bear skills are critically needed. But let's start from the beginning. First, a fisher bear has to find the right spot to fish and watch for neighbors. Just like any fisherman, fisher bears have a comfort zone which they are ready to defend. It is even more important for fishing mama bears. Mama bear is constantly on the alert, and there is good reason for it. Male bears are cannibalistic and can kill little ones. This is why mama bear is always watchful, and if a bigger bear shows up nearby, she makes the only right decision. Get out of its way for the sake of herself and her children. Now the fisher bear is in the water. The river is quite fast and the water is murky. The bear sits in the water and tries to sense a fish passing by within its reach. Not like fishing from higher ground, trained eyes here are of critical importance. To spot the fish in the murky water is challenging, but when there's a wave of fish, it becomes easier. The fish are spotted, and it is time to jump and grab one with bear claws. Sometimes there's no need even to jump. The fish are coming at the bear's arm's length. If there are lots of fish, the success rate is very high. But if there are single fish running upstream, the waiting time may be longer. All fishermen and fisher bears know this firsthand. In the worst case, there is nothing to do but wait and wait and wait. Eventually, fish are caught and it is time for feasting. And here the inter-bear skills come into play again. If a smaller bear caught a fish and there are not a lot of fish to go around, a larger bear may come and claim the fish for himself. But some bears are smart enough to take their catch into the woods, not to provoke the bigger bears. It's a very smart move. Catch your fish, disappear into the woods, and enjoy your meal. This place is full of bears, and for young ones, it is not easy to find a good spot because they are not ready to challenge the older and bigger bears. So they use a different method of fishing. Instead of sitting in the river and waiting for the fish to pass by, they go to the lake and look for fish underwater. It looks almost like snorkeling. Sometimes they simply dive to catch the fish because bears can see very well underwater. Bears mostly try to avoid conflicts. From their perspective, it's not worth a fight if there are other places or ways to fish. If there is no space available and potential neighbors are of the same size, or if there are mama bears, they'll go to the lakeshore and start diving for fish. The bears concentrate on fishing, and the presence of non-bear spectators does not seem to bother them too much. As long as everybody plays by the same rules, everything will be just fine. And people who visit these fishing grounds know these rules too. They are simple. Keep your distance and give them the right of way, and most importantly, do not get in between Mama Bear and her kids. It makes her nervous, and she may express her frustration. While preparing for this expedition, a crazy idea came to my mind. What kind of music might bears like? It was a big question to me. Personally, I was not too much into music, especially opera, but somehow it happened. Trying to find the answer to that, I jumped into listening to a variety of performers and musical compositions. Well, now I can give the bears credit for my discovery of Pavarotti, Vivaldi, and many others. Bears literally inspired the love of music and opera, which I have now. I made a long extension cord to bring a small speaker close to the bears, and I played Vivaldi's Four Seasons for them. As you can see, it didn't impress that bear too much, but maybe he had a more enjoyable meal with Vivaldi in the background. I sure hope so. Can you imagine music that would be appealing and enjoyable to all living creatures? Just think about it for a moment. What kind of music would that be? Would it be the music of the universe and divinity? Tough question, isn't it? I've spent many hours sitting on the riverbank and watching bears through my camera's viewfinder. There were not too many things they did that were new, and for some, it could possibly become boring. That's understandable. But I had a feeling, best described as being immersed in Kamchatka's enchantment. This face-to-face encounter with bears was the point of contact with something else, something much bigger. I would describe it as if this place were a cup of tea and I was a small piece of sugar dropped into it. I felt as if I dissolved into this tough nature and become a part of it. I became a part of the lake, a part of the volcanoes, and a part of the bears. There was no more me as a separate entity. I was in the air of the place and in the sky above it, looking at bears, lakes, clouds, covering volcanoes with admiration, amazement, and love. I was watching bears fishing, playing, and nursing their kids endlessly and never got bored. I was inhaling the heartbeat of life as a whole, the heartbeat of the universe, and my heart was beating intact with it. I felt happiness. Since the moment of our birth, we are all a part of something. Family, circles of friends, our country. But to be a part of something is ingrained into us. We are born with it and we need it. Here in Kamchatka, I felt like I was a part of something unimaginably big, something huge, a part of the universe. This place, South Kamchatka Sanctuary, is exclusive. Nobody can mess with the nature over there. People there are not rulers, they are guardians. And there, bears and nature as a whole are thriving, and each grain of life lives its own life. Bears live bear lives, foxes live fox lives, and rivers live river lives. All these lives are protected. And what about bears stepping out of this place? Are they safe? I'd like to say yes for the whole of Kamchatka. Unfortunately, I cannot. I witnessed bear corpses along the road and bear claws being sold as souvenirs from Kamchatka. On the internet, there are promotions for bear hunting tours from helicopters. I heard a local fisherman's story about killing bears for fun when they came to feast on a whale carcass that had washed ashore. After being with bears, seeing and hearing all of that was terrifying. It was heartbreaking. My way back to civilization was marked by an increase of trash on seashores and trash dumps along the road. The closer I got to places where more people live, the more depressing it became. Is it mankind's nature to destroy, kill, and trash everything? What is the good of all these people, responsible for such degradation of our beautiful planet, to be here in this world? I think each of us should search for an answer to a simple but profound question. Why am I here? I believe that I personally was brought to this world to make it better. Maybe just a little bit, but better. What about you? Now I am back in the States, back to my family and to my work. Kamchatka is no more terra incognita to me. Now it is terra enchanting. It lives in my soul, and its magical beauty ascends inside me over and over. I feel its call, and one day I will be back.